and welcome to another Kitchen Accomplished with your host CL. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. So what am I going to do for you today? Well, we're going to have Jagerschnitzel. Yes, we're going to have Jagerschnitzel. I spent a little time over in Germany when I was in the military, about 2.5 years, and one of my most favorite meals over there was the Jagerschnitzel. So what I'm going to start off with first are my vegetables. So I'm just going to finish chopping these mushrooms. We're going to add some mushrooms and some onions. Now remember, when I told you before about your knife skills, it's a good thing to practice on are your knife skills. You may not be as fast as an Iron Chef, but you can be pretty fast. So the way you slice an onion, as you can see, I sliced it the long way, not half, not across, but the long way. That way, when I go in there to when I want to dice these onions, I'm just going to cut down like this, make little slithers like this. You want to make sure you have a really sharp knife, and my knife is, it's getting there. And then you cut across, and you have nice dices of your onion. See that? And that way you can use all of the onions. So you get some more dices going on here. Cut across, and you have some nice dices. And then you want to run your knife through to make them just a little bit smaller. See that? Okay, back here I have my stove warming up, and I'm just going to add a little bit of olive oil there. Just a little olive oil. Turn that down a little bit. You can see it smoking. That's what olive oil does. Add my onions. It's already smelling wonderful. So to that, I'm going to add a couple of sprigs of thyme, because what I'm doing now is I'm making my gravy. And so I want to add some vegetables, some onions, a couple of sprigs of thyme for flavor. And we're just going to let that go for a minute. In the meantime, I'm going to start my egg wash for the schnitzels. So we're just going to crack some eggs here. I'm going to crack 3 eggs. And we're going to whisk those up real quick. So I have my 3 eggs in here. Just going to whisk these up. And what we're making here is an egg wash. So I have my station here. I have some flour that I'm going to season. I have my eggs, and I have breadcrumbs. So go back and test my onions. They're getting nice and brown. And turn that down just a little bit. So the reason why I'm doing the gravy first is because this dish here, the pork chop tenderloins that I'm using, I had to pound them to make them pretty thin, and so they're going to cook fast. And the thing about these schnitzels is that you want to serve it when it's hot. So with a thin pork chop or meat, it will continue to cook while I'm cooking the gravy. So I want the gravy to be done first, and then I'll cook the schnitzel. So at this time, I'm going to add my mushrooms and with the onions. And we just want to brown these off. Not too many. I'm going to brown these off. I'm going to add a little salt and pepper. A little salt and pepper there. A little salt, cracked pepper. And we're going to continue to mix these up a little bit. Now I'm not going to worry so much about the moisture in the pan, because as the mushrooms cook, they're going to release some moisture, and that's going to help cook the onions down also. So I'm done with that. So I'm going to switch this cutting board out, and pull over my meat board here. And we're going to prep our pork chops for the Jagerschnitzel. So what you want to do is cover the pork chop with plastic. Cover the pork chop with plastic because we're going to pound that to make it thin. So you want to put it on the top and on the bottom like this. Stir up this here a little bit more. Continue to cook. That aroma is really good with that fresh thyme in it. I have my hammer here. Where did I put it? Here it is. So take your meat pounder, and you want to use the rugged side because when we dip the meat into the batter, I want it to stick onto something. So we just pound this down like this. There you go. So we have 4 pieces here. I've already pounded these. So what I want to do now is just season these. So I'm going to add some salt. Add some salt, not too much. Some salt, some cracked pepper. I'm going to add some garlic powder. And some onion powder. Turn them over and do the same thing on the other side because you have to season both sides of your meat. Some salt, and I use kosher salt. Some more pepper. Garlic powder. And onion powder. Okay, we're going to let that sit for just a quick second here. Wash my hands again. You never can wash your hands too much when you're cooking. So we're going to check my mushrooms. They're all cooked down. They're nicely cooked down. So what I'm going to add to that is a 1/4 cup of flour. So when you're making gravy, you want to use a 1/4 cup of flour with a 1/4 cup of butter. So I'm just going to add my 1/4 cup of flour right in there. Add that right in there with the mushrooms. And we're just going to let that cook a while. I'm going to add the butter. So we add the fat, and we're just going to let that melt and cook down a while, okay? In the meantime, what I'm going to do is prepare my asparagus. We're also going to have grilled or broiled asparagus. So what you always want to do with your asparagus, when you get them nice and tender like this, you always want to take that bottom part off, about an inch to an inch and a half up, and just break that off. Because it's kind of woodsy, really chewy. You don't want to be eating that part because it's pretty bad. You don't want to chew on those. So I'm going to add some olive oil to this. Just coat the top of my asparagus with the olive oil. And then I'm going to add some garlic powder. I'm going to add some garlic powder. that was my onion powder. This is my garlic powder. And we're going to add some cracked pepper on here. And we're going to mix this up a little bit, kind of rub the olive oil all over the vegetables. Make sure they're nice and coated. And I'm going to put the salt on these at the very last moment when I take these out of the oven. So we're just going to pop these right in. They won't take very long. So we're just going to pop those right in. And so what you really want to do is let your flour cook until you start getting that nutty smell. You see, I'm letting my flour, my mushrooms, and the onions cook together. Starting to get that smell of nice nuts, the flour cooking. Very good smell there, nice aroma. Turn that up. Now at this point I'm going to take out my thyme sprigs. Let that cook a little bit more. Turn the fire up on my skillet for my schnitzels. Add some oil and let that get hot. In the meantime, I'm going to clean up around here just a little bit. Okay. So what are we going to do? We're going to build our schnitzels. We're going to coat them. First, we're going to add some seasoning to our flour. So add a little salt in the flour, a little salt in the eggs, a little salt in the breadcrumbs. And the same thing with the pepper. You want to season every station. Very important that you season every station. Just shake that around a little bit. And remember the trick that I told you about knowing if your oil is hot enough in your skillet. You put the bottom of your wooden spoon in the oil, and if it bubbles, it's ready. If not, well, it isn't. So to this, we're going to add our, can't get that open. We're going to add some beef stock. Okay. There you go. We're going to add some beef stock. There you go. I'm going to add just a little bit at first, maybe a couple of cups. And let that thicken up. I'm going to let that thicken up for a moment. And I'm going to bread the schnitzels into the flour. You always want to put it into the flour first so that the egg will have something to hold on to. Then in the egg wash. And then into the breadcrumbs. You notice I'm only using one hand because you want to have one clean hand. Into the flour. Into the egg wash. And into the breadcrumbs. Eggs and breadcrumbs. We have one more to go. Flour, eggs, breadcrumbs. Okay, those are all ready. Again, we're going to wash your hands. I'm going to wash my hands. The asparagus is going pretty good there. Stir my gravy. Yep, it's about where I want it. We're going to taste it and see if I need to add any more seasoning to it. It's perfect. So now what I'm going to do is add a little brown mustard to it, just to kick it up a notch. Just about a tablespoon of brown mustard. Stir that up. So just like that, it's done. So let me test my oil, see where that's at. That's ready to go. So we're going to go right in with the schnitzels into the hot oil. Hot bath, everybody. Everybody in. I know I can get 3 in. I'm not sure if I can get the 4th one in there. Well, I got 3 of them in. I'll turn that up a bit. Turn that off. I'm just going to cover that with the lid so it can stay warm. So we're taking you all the way from A to Z. From A to Z on here. Go back and get my cutting board. Okay, and just like that, believe it or not, this asparagus is just about ready. Just going to turn it a little bit. Just give it a few more minutes in there. So one of the other things that I enjoyed about being in Germany, other than the schnitzels, you may have heard that they have great beer. So not unusual for me to find a good restaurant that serves great schnitzels and good beer. Nothing like this American stuff they have here. Not that American beer is bad, but German beer is better. It's just like wine. It's all good, but some's better. So we're going to check out our schnitzels here. Those look ready to turn. Turn that one over. Let those cook a couple more minutes. And then we will plate up for you. Now remember, these won't take too long to cook because they're pounded out very thin. Look at our asparagus. That's what you want to see. You see how it's nice and caramelized at the top, nice and brown. I don't like overcooked vegetables, but I do love do love asparagus. So we're going to add our salt on there now. And then I'm going to sprinkle it with just a little bit of lime juice. So that's ready. Get out another plate. Beautiful. Check our schnitzels again. Looks like those are ready to go. Come over here and get some of our mushroom sauce. Pour that over the top like that. There you go. Is that beautiful or what? Let's get a piece. A couple of asparagus. Let's get a taste here. It's perfect. Look at that. Nice and perfect and juicy. Crispy. The mushrooms are nice and tender. And that asparagus is perfect. Well, I want to thank you for joining me again for another Kitchen Accomplished. I just showed you a beautiful Jagerschnitzel with broiled asparagus. Go on my channel, subscribe, like it, and I have one question for you today. What are you going to accomplish in your kitchen?